Here are the writing tips you need to learn how to write the wandering nomad the right way and help your reader truly understand what it means to wander. Join me on the journey toward building my own story, as well as providing you with all the writing tips you need to write good characters and make your story stand out from all the rest. What is up, you muffin munching muggles? Welcome to Fiction and Reality, where we help you, yes, you, become the most devilishly gifted human that you know you are and that you knew you always could be. I wanted to do something unique and not just speak to the course of the character this time, but do something that we rarely do when undertaking these topics and speak to the mind of the character as well. Well, let's start by defining what a nomad is. Have you ever had an existential crisis? Ye who roams over the highest of hills seeking the answers to their existence. A nomad is more than just someone who moves physically. They often embody themes of freedom, exile, self-discovery, or rebellion against societal norms. They may lug the burden of a society atop their shoulders, trudging onward as an outcast or deviant, walking their own path but sure of their journey, prepared to brave the storm in isolation. A cog grinding onward among a chamber of gears, but veering along its own belt, questioning, resisting the calls of conquest, the word of law, so readily accepted by the masses. If you want a character that will question that status quo, and bear the courage to elude irrational directives, and thus present the opportunity to evolve your plot, then consider integrating the wandering nomad into your story. Now, as promised, we will forge into the mind of the nomadic venturer. What does it mean to wander? Get out of my head.
Nobody's messing with your head. Get out of my head. No, nobody's messing with your head.
Now, a nomad can forge a path either aimlessly or within reason, a destination in mind. Why would a nomad roam about adrift aimlessly without destination? Well, because the thorn-woven path strewn ahead, their very expedition is a journey of discovery, to question that path that they once voyaged, to question the postulates that they adhered to, or simply to be free from society at large. To wander aimlessly means to roam perhaps without seeking a terminal answer, though they are sure to quell their angst to inquire about the statutes that once governed their restricted pattern. Escape is reason enough to stroll without form or destiny. Just how much of you would, if you could, escape a hollow, dry, rotted routine if you had the capacity and the courage to do so? Many people are trapped within peristaltic bowels of the universe, and the nomad striving to escape their caged destiny is no different. To roam aimlessly is to rove through the pitch-black tunnel of shadows with only the rungs of iron tracks to map their next step, without hope of reaching a terminal end, but at the very least to have voyaged and perhaps even escaped the razor-wired cage of the world through an age of self-discovery. Beyond simply just roaming aimlessly and chasing a golden carrot on a stick, you may want your nomad to coast onward towards some mapped destination. The destination is pinpoint and focused, the longing to achieve some sense of fulfillment for one's journey, and after cycling through the infinite paths and walks of life, eventually reaching an endgame. One of the characters in my novel is somewhat of a laissez-faire nomad. However, he doesn't completely just sever his ties with the faction he's involved with for the sake of maintaining a sense of stability as well as other conveniences. He is strung along on a wire by fate and destiny and heeds its call much like a dog does a bowl of rattling kibble. His one goal in reaching his destination is to wrangle the threads of fate in his favor, discover what his existence truly means for the future of the great beyond, and endure the crushing windfall scathing the path he traverses. A wandering nomad may effectively renounce themselves from the strifes of society unless these circumstances cross the path that they are undertaking, or they simply stray off their course to find meaning in the miscellaneous events, justifying engagement with the event as a means of attenuating their journey of self-discovery, reaffirming their free sense of mind, or striving for the state of enlightenment. Who does my character live for? What does he stand for? What direction will Fortuna's will spin next? Such is the paradox of seeking freedom while being bound by fate. These are the questions he must find an answer to before his soul is laid to rest. To roam with meaning is to wander, not aimlessly, but with purpose. Whether that purpose is self-discovery, enlightenment, or the pursuit of something greater, it means embracing the journey itself as a path to growth, rather than simply drifting without direction. A meaningful nomad is not lost. They are in motion because motion itself is a means of transformation. Their wandering is somewhat of a philosophy, a rejection of stagnation in favor of exploration of the world, ideas, and of self. The audience usually becomes enamored with this concept of free roaming as you offer up the opportunity to invest the plethora of elements with the potential to fork the path that your character is traversing, providing trials and tribulations that help the character question whether or not their decision to renounce society and wander for a golden nugget was the right one after all. You present them with the opportunity to refine their character arc and add this alluring but mystifying component that calls your audience to keep asking what they will encounter next. Let's chop through the different subtypes of a nomadic character. The Seeker. The Seeker focuses their stride on searching for truth, knowledge, or enlightenment, and that one truth that the Seeker is seeking now, furling through the pages like a rat hopped on crack, is you should leave a like. If you're enjoying this video right now, go ahead and leave a like to show some love. Perhaps the Seeker dwells in a society where power over its people is achieved through deceit. Or maybe they want to embark on their own journey of self-discovery to find their own purpose in the grand scheme of the world. Now this differs quite a bit from the Exile.
You shall not pass!
The Exile is forced to wander as a consequence of the actions they've taken, perhaps a commandment by a nation, or maybe simply just being bred to roam by fate or prophecy. But what about those who, instead of being banished, had no choice but to roam to survive? The survivor simply veers the course because they must adapt and be adept at enduring the plagueous environment in which they live. Their crusade is for natural resources that will ensure their vitality. There's also the spirit of rebellion. The rebel rejects that code of morality to which society says they must adhere, and most certainly will be branded an outcast and deviant. Yet with all this, they will maintain the aptitude to veer towards their own path, preserving the sanctity in what they view as the righteous path of life. And let's not forget about the spiritual wanderer. The spiritual wanderer simply motions toward a higher purpose of self-discovery. They see the universe in its entirety, not simply confined to villages and windows of subjectivity, but an all-encompassing machine that requires all its bells and whistles to run smoothly. These are a few subtypes of the Nomad to get you veering the course in the right direction and playing your own internal ingenuity in hopes that you will use these frameworks to build something completely unique of your own. Aside from understanding specific key subtypes of the Nomad, we must understand a Nomad's internal battle, why they choose to either question or reject society, and how both push your story forward. Why would the Nomad reject society? To reject humans and return to monkey. Here are some reasons why. Do you know how much people passively reject the society you live in today simply based on the premise of being stuck in a brain-numbing routine, and every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears they give being shunted away by overbearing taxation, working with little reward? They are restricted and bound by obligations, however, and responsibilities, as well as the fear of being left destitute by abandoning those duties. The thing that separates the Nomad from the rest: they have the courage to embark on their own path, abandon prior duties, and even be willing to suffer the consequences of condemnation by society at large, as long as it means that their principles remain intact. The Nomad must spark a war between their own code of morals and ethics and the postulates they must abide by within the society in which they live. When the tension of the wire is pulled taut, stripping at the seams, the path of least resistance, and the more peaceful of the choices, is to sheath your sword and traverse the path of isolation, even when raised to uphold the institution's standards, barred by the pressures of the ones around you, condemning those who deviate from that spectrum. The Nomad finds it strides to wander and remains resolute in maintaining its sovereignty. More than anyone, the great Nomad is capable of deep introspection and reflecting on their actions and words. They realize that no one can make you act against your own principles, but rather have the capacity to influence them. They may have been a willing participant in what they now recognize as a tyrannical state of governance, who deem themselves as gods with golden wings, and justified their pillaging, murdering, and enslavement of those they deemed as lesser beings simply because they heralded their bloodline as being sacred. However, the individual and the individual alone is responsible for moving thoughts to words and words to actions, and always has the option present, even when influenced under extreme stressors, to walk away and protect their sphere of morality. This the Nomad can recognize. It is this capacity to brave the social blizzard that entices others to trail alongside the Nomad, almost as if they were the grand disciples of some god, moved by the Nomad's ability to endure the searing brand of outcast and exile. Even within the crusade, the Nomad is able to forge bonds with the creatures around them and the people they encounter through the strife or obstacles that may block the path to sovereignty, thus offering yet another outlet to further refine your plot, push the plot forward, and harmonize with your audience. Imagine all the wars that could be waged, the bounties that could be set, the events that could transpire, simply based on one character's courage an ability to say the one word that tyrants hate to hear most: no. The nomad rejects society because it rejects their morals. The path of the nomad is not one of ease, nor is it one of blind rebellion. It is a pursuit of an existence unshackled, where the sovereignty of mind and spirit outweighs the comforts of compliance. To walk away is not to abandon, but to reclaim. And in the act of defiance, the nomad does not simply reject the world. They forge a new one step at a time. Aside from questioning authority and routing their own path, you must capture the internal battle within your nomad. All characters, just as you do, undergo conflict with themselves, and it's no different for the nomad. A nomad embarking on their journey may be searching for meaning, but reject the answers when they are found if they are not in accordance with what they want to hear, not what they need to hear, succumbing to illusions in the presence of truth. Decide whether or not they will cling to an illusion about themselves, the world, or their purpose in order to preclude themselves within a shell of comfort, even if it means refuting the truth uncovered through their journey of discovery. You want to avoid them being cast as the mysterious loner without any additional appeal or depth to deepen what they actually stand for, and the best way to do that is through their internal battle. The nomad will have to determine if striving for their own journey is worth abandoning responsibility to their loved ones, such as their child or lover. The question of freedom versus duty, personal fulfillment versus responsibility. Consider if their decision may mean consequences for the ones they've left behind, or what punishment may await them when they return. Perhaps their nomadic venture is not simply reared by duty or desire for self-discovery, but that responsibility to protect themselves and the others they are bound to by casting an ocean of distance between them. Aside from the internal battle of duty versus responsibility, we'll turn to fate versus free will. I'll use my original character Chroma as an example to illustrate the bindings of a nomadic character. The journey of self-discovery by a nomadic character, as you know, doesn't have to be alone. They may very well have maintained their ties with the ones they care for the most. However, as my character does, they may recede into a shadow of silence and wear a giddy mask to repress others' fear of them suffering in silence, all while having to trek a path crackling with hellfire, all by their lonesome, leaving as they please, coming as they please. If bound by prophecy, your nomad will have to decide if they will remain bound to the fate that meets their eyes, act out of accordance with those ancient glyphs, or change the future carved in stone. If you took something from this video, I want you to take a moment to crack that subscribe button below and like the video. Like the video. It pushes these videos out so that others can take key tokens that you've gained. So do your fellow comrades a favor. Let me know in the comments who your favorite nomadic character is and what makes them so unique. And also share what type of video you'd like to see next. I will leave a link to my socials in the description below. If you want more info on how to improve your story, feel free to check out some of my other videos and click right here. Writers, world builders, and storytellers aiming to perfect writing techniques and enhance their storytelling and world building are all welcome. And with that, remember, if you're ever lost in the forestry of words, strip your mind from fantasy and look to the window of the world, and there your mind will run free.